Hello guys, welcome to another Blender tutorial. This one will be about CPU rendering. Let's start it off. If you go to File and then you select Load Factory Settings, go ahead and click that, Load Factory Settings. You should now have the same screen as me. Okay, now we're gonna position this cube a little better. Go ahead and press G and then Z and then drag it a little bit up. Now we're gonna add a pane. Go ahead and add mesh and then pane. Press G, then press S and then drag to either side to make it larger. I mean, this is good. And alright, so we have a pane and a cube. Now go ahead and select that cube. And now we're gonna go to our material properties. And we're gonna select Cycles Renderer over there on the top. And then we're gonna click this Use Nodes, and we're gonna put this on Glossy. We're gonna select a color, and I'm gonna add a little bit of roughness. So okay, now press ins or 0 numpad to select your camera view and go ahead and press render. And now you can see we have a glossy yellowish cube over here. Alright, now you can press F11 to go back to the 3D view. And we are now already rendering with the CPU, but we can actually enable this by going to user preferences and then going to system, and then here where compute device is, you enable GPU rendering and CPU rendering. If you can select OpenCL here like me, go ahead and click that. If you have CUDA, go ahead and click that. This is basically the manufacturing chip of your rendering GPU. So mine is Tahiti. Yeah, go ahead and close this, and now you will see that you have a new feature here, device, and you can select the GPU or the CPU. Go ahead and leave that at CPU. We're gonna be using the CPU for this video tutorial to show you guys what is going on and what is happening if the CPU is rendering this scene. Okay, go ahead and open the performance tab at the render properties. It is right almost at the bottom actually. This should all be the same as me at the moment, and here is your threads, and basically what this tells you is how many threads and how many cores your CPU has and how many Blender will use. So for my FX 9590 that has 8 cores and 8 threads, this is automatically being detected on 8 threads. So you can tweak this manually if you know what you're doing, and otherwise you should just leave it on auto detect and it should be the correct settings. Alright, here you can see tiles, and we're now set rendering from the center to the edges. We're starting with the 64 by 64 tiles, which is pretty small for the CPU. So let's see what is gonna happen if we render this. So this took us about 2.5 seconds to render with 64 by 64 tiles on 50% detail. I'm gonna leave it on 50% render resolution at the moment here. You can see we're rendering a full 1080p image. So 2.5 seconds, that's not too bad. Okay, let's change that to 128. and let's press render again. So we just rendered 40 tiles in a little bit longer than the other settings, 64 by 64. So this actually takes longer to render out. Why is that? Well, because the CPU isn't that designed for rendering larger tiles at once, unlike a GPU. So this is generally a rule of thumb that you wanna use small tiles for your CPU to spread the workload evenly across the threads and cores, if this makes any sense for you. So you don't want to use large tiles unless you have a really powerful CPU that can handle larger tiles well. So what are we gonna enter here now? We're gonna do some more tests. Let's put this at 256. This one as well. And let's see what's gonna happen. So this took us about 3 seconds, a little more. So it is slower at the moment, so you can understand why you don't want to use larger tiles. If we change this to even smaller tiles than the first 64 by 64, let's see what's gonna happen. You can see that it was rendered almost half second faster than that larger tile we just did. Alright, let's make it even smaller and go 16 by 16. So you can understand that for my CPU and this particular scene, it would be best to render on about 64 tiles. But hey, I mean, we could try with one single tile, right? Or 2 tiles, and let's see what's gonna happen. What's gonna happen is the CPU is rendering one larger tiles and sampling that, and this takes the CPU much longer to do because it's not that efficient to render these tiles out. So how long did it take? Well, it took almost 20 seconds to do this. So you can understand the difference between GPU and CPU rendering if you watched my other tutorial about GPU rendering. It's basically, it is exactly the opposite for CPU rendering. You want to be using small tiles, or you want to split up the workload evenly across your threads. So let's see if I change this to 960, and then I change this to 480, if I'm correct. Then we should have 4 or 6 tiles. Let's see what's gonna happen. Yeah, we got 2 tiles now. So you can see that it took about 10 seconds less than that large tile, that single tile that we did. And because it's set to 50% resolution scale, it's not gonna render the full 1080p image, but only the half. So that's why I have less tiles than I am entering here, but that is no problem. We're just having a preview. So hopefully you guys understand now the importance of optimizing your tile size for your CPU and your system. That is really important. So for instance, if you have a high-end CPU, a Xeon or something really fast, you should be rendering in small tiles. Not too small, not too small. I mean 8 by 8, that would be a little bit too small for a very fast CPU. I will not recommend that, because you can see here we have spent about 7 seconds, and knowing that we can do this in, you know, 2 seconds with 64 by 64 tiles, it would be a little bit useless to do it in smaller tiles, because it's gonna mean that our CPU is gonna be used longer. Less intensive because it's doing smaller tiles, but it will be used longer. So that is always the choice that you have to make about stability and speed. If you want to go for stability, go ahead and change those tiles to a little bit smaller, so there is a little bit less bottleneck and less load on your CPU all the time. And if you are fairly sure that your system can handle it, go ahead and put those tile size on 64 or 128. Usually it is 256 is also pretty fine actually. Although this isn't balanced in the tile, so you have to divide that evenly, but that is easy to do. So if you guys have any questions about CPU rendering, please let me know in the comment section. This tutorial was for CPU rendering on your own system, not render farms or other stuff. So just CPU rendering on your own system in Blender on cycles. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this, and yeah, there's of course a lot more things you can do to optimize your rendering, but this video was only about showing you the difference and how to render with the CPU efficiently. So I hope that you guys understand it a little better now and actually see the difference, the huge difference that just the tile size can mean for your render. Alright guys, take it easy and have a good day.